We talk about wellness then. So there's two components in our, it's health and the other one is wellness. Wellness is that prosperity that it's going well with me, but with my person, not money. That's interesting. Money doesn't factor into wellness.
Yeah.
And that's based around, your physical needs, your emotional, social, and spiritual needs, and then intellectual and work needs. And it's identifying where's the energy being drained, and when is the energy drainage a waste, and then what are these factors that help me fill my tank again, so I can go on and fight the fight.
Feel the heat. No holding back, no playing it safe. We're taking up space, we're setting the pace. Louder than ever. Here we come. Unfiltered AF.
Today on Unfiltered AF, we've got a very unique and exciting guest, Dr. Jerrie Bezuidenhout. And Dr. Jerrie, you are part of Vista Clinic, and you guys are situated in Pretoria?
Yeah, Centurion
rather. And Vista Clinic, help me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong, that Vista Clinic is a mental health institute.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
It's a hospital.
Mental hospital. And your role at Vista Clinic?
I'm the medical director.
Okay.
It means I overlook I always find it difficult to describe what I do because I don't have people work for me. I look at the clinical governance of the hospital.
But there's a whole team at Vista Clinic.
Yeah. So we've got a big administrative department, and then we've got roughly about 200 clinicians. That includes nursing staff, doctors, psychologists, a whole multidisciplinary team.
Okay. So it's a fairly large institute.
Well, it's one of the largest private healthcare facilities in the world.
Private healthcare or private mental health care?
Private mental health care.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, because most of the healthcare facilities are small, below 50 beds.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, that's an exciting stat. So just to frame to our viewers as well, Vista Clinic reached out to us because of an episode we did. I'm not going to go back into the episode right now, but the reality is mental health is a very contentious issue, especially if we look at our viewers, especially if we look at our guests that have sat in the same seat you're sitting in, Dr. Bezuidenhout, where they need to overcome the stresses of life. And I don't want to diminish that everybody goes through stuff in life.
That's correct.
Like everybody goes through stuff. But it takes a special breed of individual to be bold enough to say, I'm gonna stick my toes in the water or slap bang shebang into the whole thing of running a business, saying there's no security, literally no security. I'm gonna start employing staff. Or they are a public figure and they are scrutinized by thousands, even millions of people in their contacts or in the influence they do have. Yeah. And that adds pressure. We just had, before you came in, we had a representative of Ekurhuleni who sits in the chair of Ekurhuleni, who needs to make sure that governance is sound. Now that's pressure where thousands of residents, thousands of people look up to you to find a solution and figure things out for you, because what does an employer or a business owner do? They identify a need, then they provide a solution to that need, right? That's the basic definition of becoming a business owner. So there's a need and there's a solution to it, all right? So, but now you create your own challenges within your organization because your business is thriving, you're doing so well, you need to address more client needs, so you raise a team, and your team has got needs. Now you need to fulfill the need of the client, fulfill the need of your employees, fulfill the need of your suppliers, fulfill the need of your family at the end, and the bank as well, if they need you to pay. So it becomes a vicious circle for many. And that creates a situation where business owners, public figures, influencers, because this is a trending thing currently today. Influencers is a real thing. Yeah. They put themselves out there. Now, they deal with those pressures, and some of them do collapse, completely implode. Mentally, they implode completely. Physically, they implode because they can't deal with the pressures. They can't deal with the criticism. They can't deal with managing the stresses of all the needs that come to them and say, listen, how are we solving this? Am I wrong or am I right in that statement?
No, very much so. If you look, in terms of an influencer, the kind of pressure that's on them, It's a little bit different than the business owner because they put themselves out there publicly. And people relate to the story and not to the person. And we tend to be more critical of the story, and of a film or a video. We don't see the person in that. So they experience quite harsh feedback. And it's a very lonely place to be because you always have to think, in a sense, in two worlds.
Yeah.
One is my world where I live, and the other one is the world of what I'm presenting.
Your persona.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's quite stressful. And with business owners, like you rightly said, you get all that pressure that adds up, and it's a lonely place. That's the most common comment I get, is that it's lonely.
It is, right?
Yeah, a friend of mine, got promoted to being CEO, and I phoned him about 2 months later. I said, "How's it going?" He said, "Yes, it's lonely." So I said, "I've got nobody to talk to. I've got nobody to share my decision making with." He said, "Yeah, I've got my board and everybody helps and support." He said, "But the buck stops with me." And like with any business owner, the buck stops with you.
Exactly.
Now, the reality is, it doesn't matter how much skills you've got. If we apply the right amount of negative pressure on you, it will have a negative impact on you. It's just a matter of time. It doesn't matter who you are. And when people start a business, they typically look at what you said. There's a need. Can I fulfill it? Can I make a profit from this? Yes, I can. Let's go for it. And they don't factor the person in. And a lot of entrepreneurs, when they look back after about 5 years, one of the major things they say is, we neglected ourselves in this process. And, we nearly got burnt out, or we got burnt out, or, ran out of my family because the family stayed behind. So we don't think in terms of us as humans when we think in terms of business. But the reality is we drive the business.
So another thing, like you rightly said, it's a very lonely place. Is it right to say that many make it lonely for themselves, number one, by isolating themselves because they do think there's nobody to talk to?
No, I think the reality, it is a lonely place. Everybody looks up to senior people, and I've treated people from America. It wasn't safe for them to be treated there because everybody's looking at them as the CEO or the president of the company. So unfortunately, the leaders do carry a huge burden, especially of stability. They must give the aura of stability.
Yes. Calmness.
Calmness, and we in control, and we know what we're doing.
Like a duck in water.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And the people that survive and thrive in that are the people that realize, I can't do this on my own. They make friends, strategic friendships, often outside of their business. That's why a lot of guys play golf. They do sport. It's not a luxury. It's actually a necessity.
It's therapy.
Yeah. But it's also, it puts emotional energy back into the person, and they can do stuff again. So what people misunderstand there is that, when they see the CEO playing golf, or the business owner playing golf, or going away doing something, it's just luxury, it's all the money. It's not. It's a necessity.
And on this, so I don't know if I interrupted you just now, Dr. Bezuidenhout. This is also very relevant. As a business owner or business owners, they have friends. They've got a circle around them. But you mentioned, it's a lonely place. Their circle becomes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller due to the fact, and I don't know if this is what it is, but your friends are maybe just employed in a business. They're not necessarily business owners, but your growth is exponential, especially after you started a business, because you need to adapt to your environment, to running a business, to fulfilling needs. So there's a disparity that happens between, I've got this friend, or we've got friends, but my growth is now in a different direction. So they do not understand where you are at as a business owner. But they also look up to you and say, you've got the life, you've got the money, you've got the time, you've got the freedom, but then they don't understand what's going on behind the scenes as well. And that's where a lot of the loneliness also creeps in, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, and again, that's the maturity in friendship. It's nice to have mature friendships. Doesn't matter, whether you grow apart or not. they can think themselves into your situation, and they can be a friend that's appropriate for your needs, and vice versa. Because one friend doesn't fulfill all the needs. And that's why it's important to have good quality friendships. That you can grow and they can grow, and it can be in different directions, but you can still support each other and still be that friends outside of office. And again, there's to be conscious. The people that are conscious about their friendships, about the strategic partnerships they make with either business owners or business leaders that help and support them, they do better. It's the people that tend to take all the responsibility for themselves, keep it for themselves, they tend to suffer quite badly.
So can we then circle back and say it does not have to be such a lonely place?
Yeah, you need to manage the loneliness proactively. Otherwise, it manages you.
Well, it also depends. Like, there's certain conversations a business CEO can't have with anyone, except if they're a level up or equal, or their therapist, right?
Yes.
So, but how can business owners, public figures, I'm going to refer to them as business owners, fill in the blank of the rest. It's then a general term for this conversation. What can they do to build these elements into their lives so that they do not suffer from mental illness, mental fatigue, and so forth?
Well, we talk about wellness then. So there's two components in our, it's health, and the other one is wellness. Wellness is that prosperity, that it's going well with me, but with my person, not money. That's interesting. Money doesn't factor into wellness.
Yeah.
And that's based around, your physical needs, your emotional, social, and spiritual needs, and then intellectual and work needs. And it's identifying where's the energy being drained, and when is the energy drainage a waste, and then what are these factors that help me fill my tank again, so I can go on and fight the fight. And you can start anywhere. So the most common thing people overlook is friendships, and the other one is exercise. It's such an important part of wellness, because when you're physically active, the biological mechanism of moving actually forces your anxiety network in your brain to switch off. And then there's also this whole biochemical cascade that happens in the body in terms of recovery and all of that, but you feel better. And then, eating properly, sleeping properly, having a good routine.
Yes.
And then, interestingly enough, in the work, whether I'm in control or not. And a lot of people think CEOs or business owners are in control, and often they're not, because they don't take ownership of their day. The secretary does. I read a very interesting article on CEOs in the US, and they wanted time to think, and their secretaries believed they had to fill up their time as much as possible. So two totally different agendas. And only when they started having that conversation with their PAs about, okay, what do we need here, that they start becoming sort of more happier with the feeling of control.
So I've walked in circles where the statement that was made is that your most effective time to basically fill your calendar is from, let's say, 7 to 11-ish in the morning. That's the ability for your mind to be the most productive. Is that true?
Depending on what you want to do, depending on your person. So some people take a bit longer to wake up, so they work a bit later. But in general, getting into the office and focusing on your agenda, not on other people's agenda, is a much better way to work. Like, for instance, emails. A lot of people walk in and they start looking at emails, so they immediately start going on to other people's agendas. And that can perpetuate that feeling of being out of control. Actually just deciding, when is the best time for me to do my emails. And then you look at that, you slot that into your routine. It's about looking at, okay, what works for me? What works for my organization? And how do we manage this? Because you're managing a chronic system, meaning you have to come in, day out, and be very, very effective. Then someone else comes, let's say you work with cars. Another guy's car breaks. Then it's a crisis. It's an acute problem. They don't think that you've been working for the last 20 years and would like to work another 20 years. They're just thinking, I need my car fixed now. And it's managing that conflict of needs.
Okay.
And in any business, it's like that. So it's, and if you really want to make a business grow and keep yourself sustainable, it's focusing on those long-term sustainable activities that bring in. And if that works better for you in the mornings, then do that. A lot of CEOs will say they go in at about 7 or even 6 before the rest of the people come in, and they can sit and think and plan. And once the people start coming in, they can do their meetings and they can run with the company. But that again is very much about what you want to do. One of my patients, big business, when they finish, and he bought a nice couch and a small bar fridge, shut down, I think 4:30. He takes his shoes off, he gets a cool drink, and he says he lies on his couch and he just thinks and enjoys. Some days he thinks about problems, other days he just thinks about what he's going to do the weekend.
Okay.
So he gives himself a half an hour to an hour, and then he puts his shoes on and he goes home. And he says ever since he's been doing that, he feels much more in control of his day, because a lot of the time finishing the day off just enhances that feeling, I've done something, because you can reflect on what he's managed and what he's tried to sort of solve in the day, because some days just run out of you, from under you.
It's crisis upon crisis.
Yeah, and then just suddenly stopping and saying, okay, but what did I actually do? Did I achieve something? Okay, I didn't achieve any of my goals, but I actually managed X, Y, and Z. So it was still a productive day.
Yes. So, Dr. Bezuidenhout, Vista Clinic. Why did Vista Clinic start? And how pivotal is Vista Clinic for mental health in South Africa?
It started roughly about 40 years, just over 40 years ago. The founding psychiatrist wanted to admit a young man, couldn't find a place, and unfortunately the patient sort of committed suicide over the weekend, and then he started driving to open up a hospital. And it's grown from, I think, a 6-bedded unit to what we've got now, nearly 160 beds. I think Vista is very important in South Africa and healthcare. We really drive to bring mental health to the forefront. We work hard to attack the stigma around mental health, because that's the biggest reason why people don't come for treatment. And we innovate a lot. We're very creative, and we push the boundaries. And that is needed in psychiatry. Healthcare in the world is in a crisis because it's very expensive systems, and the sustainability is being questioned all over the world. And we're really pushing in Vista, how can we do this more effective? How do we do it efficiently and sustainably? We're not there yet, but we're really pushing hard to get there.
Okay, and with the stigma, you'll hear quite often people say that stop feeling depressed when it's a mind over matter situation.
Yeah.
Why do people say that?
Roughly about 30 years ago, there was a big debate still in the world, whether psychiatric illness is actually an illness or whether it's a behavioral problem or a social problem. And it's only when we had these functional MRIs, it's a research MRI, that can do brain scans and see the blood flow in the brain, where they actually found that there's actually illnesses in the brain.
Okay.
So the way I teach my patients, if someone tells me it's in your mind, yes, it is in your mind. It's a brain illness. It just affects our emotional networks. With other neurological problems, it affects our movement, like Parkinson's, so you can see it. Our illnesses affect the whole emotional network. And emotions are crucial in our memory, both in laying down memory and retrieving memory, our sort of executive functions here at the front. So all of that gets affected by our illnesses. And by educating our patients, we help them to fight against stigma. In a traditional culture like South Africa, we tend to over-spiritualize things. So we try and bring context in. When is it spiritual? When is it physical, emotional, or social? And again, by educating people, we make them stronger. because we can't avoid the stigma, unfortunately. But just time, it'll break it down. I don't know if your religious background, but I haven't been in a church where I heard a sermon about glasses being sinful. We all wear glasses. It's just accepted. So we don't debate whether it's a weak faith by wearing glasses. And I haven't seen any sermon about why we're wearing clothing. Yet we're dependent on them. We're dependent on food. So the whole thing about mental illness is more a misunderstanding and a lack of knowledge. And then we revert back to our own sort of personal understanding, and then we try and sort of spiritualize things. And again, by showing people, but it's not just spiritual. Yes, spirituality can be a component of it, but spirituality is part of the treatment. It's part of the solution, but it's not always the whole problem. So that's the fun part of it.
You said it's like an illness. It's a brain illness.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think there are some people, and obviously I think we're charting on dangerous ground here, some people that might claim they've got a mental illness, they've got depression or whatever the case might be, but it is not really depression. It's something else. Is that a possibility?
Oh, that is. Yeah, we call it malingering. It's either malingering, but means people are, consciously trying to fit into an illness profile.
Okay.
To avoid either going to prison or being fired or something in that line. Yeah, but they're by far the minority.
Okay.
The vast majority of people that complain, they're actually suffering. And that's one of the components of a diagnosis. There's a negative impact on a person's level of functioning in more than one area of their life. Mm. And you constantly see that. People, again, CEOs coming to see me, they complain. Now their wife says, they're not present, they're irritable, they're not enjoying their hobbies, they're not doing their hobbies anymore, they're not engaging with the family. So there's clearly suffering and there's clearly a reduction in functioning.
Yeah. So, in saying that, why does that happen? What is the illness? What triggers the illness?
There's a couple of things. So there's definitely genetics involved. When you talk to people, they will have a very clear family history of depression running through it or bipolar running through the family. And most of our illnesses are more prevalent in females than in males. So you'll often hear my grandmother, my mother, my sister, they all suffered from depression, or we had, there was bipolar or schizophrenia in the family. So that is a reality. Then the rest is normally sort of a nice pot of negative pressures that's been applied for too long.
Okay.
And we can often find one, the last straw that broke the camel's back. But often, it's a hodgepodge of things, and it just build up over time. And the most people with depression, they present in their midlife. So that's the time when you've got the most pressure on you, both at home and at work. Depending on those kind of external factors, childhood trauma plays a huge role. Violence as an adult, receiving or being, exposed to a lot of violence has an impact on us. And then how you were sort of brought up as a child, were you taught how to cope with stress, deal with anxiety, deal with emotions and that. So the more neglected sort of kind of people, if they weren't sort of very well sort of brought up, they've got a higher risk of developing it.
So the equipping mechanisms aren't as well developed?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's interesting, they're common skills, so you can acquire them later on.
Okay.
It's not something that's specially gifted to certain people. Anybody can teach.
It's like speaking and writing.
Exactly. You just have to learn to apply it.
Okay.
So there's no one thing that we can identify. Genetically, they're busy looking at can they find sequences in the DNAs and that. And with depression, not so far. Some of the other psychiatric illnesses, there seems to be a stronger genetic link, and there's different sort of indicators at the moment. And it'll get stronger over time.
So you mentioned spiritual.
Yeah.
Spiritual component is part of your healing as well.
Yes.
So I want to touch on this topic now. Do you believe that there's full healing that can take place because of faith, because of quiet time, meditation, whatever you want to label that? Do you think that's possible?
Yeah. That's the whole principle of faith, isn't it? It's irrational. I believe in something I can't see. And if you look at, Christianity and all major faiths in the world, if you look at their holy scriptures, they all have examples of people being healed against sort of medical advice or against medical prognosis. So yes, faith can heal. Within the reality of life, it's a small minority of people. From my experiences, faith is very important in helping us sustain happiness and sustaining,
It's fine.
that hope in life despite having an illness. So people with a strong spiritual life tend to manage a very serious chronic illness much, much better than someone who don't have it. Spirituality is very important in how you look at it. So when I'm not ill, I have certain assumptions about spirituality and about my faith and about what faith means to me and to people around me. If I become unwell, a lot of those assumptions are being challenged. And then I have to sort of either grow in my faith or throw the diagnosis away or deny it. But it's either I'm growing forward or I'm stagnating. And the people that go through that struggle to work with their faith in context of, but I've got an illness, so what does it mean in terms of my faith and my spirituality? And how does my spirituality gives meaning to me? They do much better. And sometimes faith, our spirituality is part of the problem. People having extramarital affairs, they sin, they become depressed because of that. And then addressing that sin is important. It doesn't always relieve the illness that was triggered, but it often brings wellness.
Okay.
So, there's prosperity in my person despite being ill.
Okay.
Yeah. So atheists in general, they take longer to heal, and their prognosis in general is worse off.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in anything.
Yeah.
Dr. Bezuidenhout, quickly tell me, as we need to draw to a close, how can Vista Clinic help people, but for the nature of this conversation, business owners, CEOs, individuals under immense pressure from daily life? How can you and your team at Vista Clinic support and help them, but not only from a medical point of view, but from an equipping point of view?
Well, we've already got a Vista Academy, that's sort of our training division, where we have modules that looks at stress management, anxiety management, and people it's an online course. They can buy it. We call it roller coaster ride. You can buy sort of a piece of the roller coaster ride and then look at it and learn from that. And that, it's very helpful information to go and look at that. We've also got lots of clinicians associated with us, where people can go and see a clinician and ask for help. And often what we find is that the spouses come to us and say, but, give me some information so I can go back. And without being sexist, it's mostly the women coming, wanting the men to help their men because the men doesn't come.
You mentioned that it's more relevant with women, mental health issues, challenges, whatever the word is. Illnesses than with men. Do you think it's because women do ask for help a lot easier than men?
No, they're two separate issues. Women do ask more for help, but it's also more prevalent. Psychiatric illness are more prevalent.
So it's scientifically based.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But women come. Of the males that see me, I would say about 99% make, their appointments are made by their wives, their mothers, or their girlfriends. It's every now and then I get someone that's, I made the appointment.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's worldwide. It's not just South Africa. So there's something in us males that, we don't like asking directions, do we?
Well, we don't want to seem vulnerable, do we? I think that's part of the issue. So, I've got so many more questions, but we'll have another opportunity to ask more questions. But let's say there's a viewer today who says they're done with life. They can't anymore. It seems too much, although the reality might look different from an outside perspective, but in their world, they want to end it. And this is a tough topic. What can they do? What should they do? What support is there for them?
Well, the first thing is to talk. Tell family members, tell friends, I want to harm myself, I want to kill myself, I don't see any hope. Because by opening up, you're sharing your burden. So you don't have to go far away. And then you either go, if it's really a crisis, go to a casualty. Tell people there, listen, I'm not coping, I want to kill myself. A lot of casualties have got psychologists that can do crisis work there and refer on. Going to the GP, saying, I need some help, that help. There's a couple of crisis lines people can phone. Again, it's wonderful about Google. You just type in crisis lines. But there is hope. Our mental illnesses are treatable. That's the beauty of it. We have good medication, we have good treatment options, therapies and support. So people don't have to suffer. And people don't have to end their lives because they are suffering. There is hope. I've seen it so many times, senior people saying, I've tried to kill myself, I wasn't successful, so let's try this route. And then after a while say, wow, the suicide ideas is gone. I feel like a human again. I can see a future again. So don't give up. Talk and ask. Keep on looking for help. There is help.
And let's say there's a spouse dealing, somebody's spouse is suffering from mental illness and they're there. Can they also reach out? What can they do for their spouse?
Again, encourage. There's nothing like a loving, nagging spouse.
But if they don't want to listen?
If they're really a threat to themselves, we have mental health laws where you can ask the police, which is difficult in South Africa, to escort the person from your home to a hospital where they can be detained against their will. A lot of the emergency services can help access that again as well. So phoning an ambulance and saying, listen, my partner wants to kill themselves, they're standing with a rope or that, can you come? They often assist in that process. That's a last resort, but it's a very effective resort again, if that's the last chance.
Okay. Any final words for our viewers, for business owners? Some encouraging words.
Yeah, enjoy what you've created. The opportunity to run your own business is wow. So don't get lost in the burdens. Also enjoy the blessings, enjoy the fun that you have with it, and create the fun in achieving your dreams.
Fantastic. Awesome. Where can people get hold of Vista Clinic?
They just go on to www.vistaclinic.co.za. Go and look.
So, Dr. Bezuidenhout, thank you so much for joining us on Unfiltered today. Just an overview discussion, especially with the mental stresses business owners deal with on a daily basis, especially in South Africa. Because South Africa's business climate is so much more difficult than other economies pose as well, due to, we're not going to go into the detail of that, but there are different challenges we do face in South Africa. So thank you for the work you are doing. Thank you for the work Vista Clinic is doing. We're excited about the future as well, more discussions with Vista Clinic as well in this room, how we can also assist then business owners out there to have a better life in terms of be healthier, mentally wise, wellness, and so forth, build good solid relationships, and hopefully this platform will equip them moving forward as well, how they can actually have a better life, better quality of life, and lead their businesses better, lead their teams better. So
thanks for having me.
Thanks. To all our viewers, if you need to reach out for help, I know for some of us men it's difficult, but this is quite a serious ask. If you do need to reach out for help because you are struggling, you find yourself in that place, and I've seen this numerous times in previous comments as well, I don't know what to do further because it feels like I've reached a dead end. please reach out for help. We'll drop a couple of numbers in the description down below, a couple of hotlines that you can contact. Vista Clinic's numbers as well, to reach out to Vista Clinic. Do not lose hope, because there's always a way out. There's always hope, and you're not alone. Although for some it is a lonely journey, but there is somebody that will listen, that can listen, that will help as well. Please like, share, subscribe all our channels, so that we can have, so that you rather can see more valuable discussions like this that will just equip you to become a better business owner, entrepreneur, public figure, whatever your role is, even just a better human being. Thank you so much. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Feel the heat. No holding back, no playing it safe. We're taking up space, we're setting the pace. Louder than ever. Here we come. Unfiltered AF.